Today we're going to give this walk-in shower a much-needed refresh, and you might say, well, what's wrong with it? And there you go. There's problem number one. You can't open the door all the way without hitting the toilet, and that becomes a problem because you could shatter this door and someone could get seriously hurt. So we're going to do what the builder should have done and replace it with a sliding shower door. Water also runs down the shower door and then spills out underneath the frame and onto the floor, which means it was never sealed properly. Not only that, but there's areas around where there's missing grout and sealant, which could lead to water damage and mold problems, and the grout on the floor is all discolored and patchy. So we're going to get this shower cleaned up and sealed for good with the help of my friends from GE Sealants. So step one of this process involves removing the door. Now, anytime you remove a big piece of glass like this, you have to be extra careful, make sure that you are not banging it into things, and just take your time so that nothing happens and the glass doesn't shatter in your hands. The next step is to remove any existing sealant, and thankfully, in this case, there wasn't that much to deal with. And we're also going to remove the wall anchors that were previously used to attach this door in place. Now, sometimes it can be a real trick to get them out, so in some cases, your best option is actually to just punch them into the wall. We also removed some of the old sealant and some grout that looked like it was in bad shape, and then I could focus on resealing the interior of the shower. Now, as this is a white subway tile, I'm going to be using GE Sealants Supreme Silicone in white. Now, when it comes to caulking, everybody seems to have their own technique, but if you look closely on the tube itself, there's actually some measurements right here on the nose. I like to cut it off at about a 45-degree angle, right at about the 1/4 inch mark, which gives me a nice solid bead, but isn't too fat that you end up using a lot more silicone than you need to. When you pop open a new tube, squeeze it until you get all the caulk out to the tip of the gun. Make sure that the tip is clean, and then you can start knowing that as soon as you give it that first squeeze, the silicone is going to start coming out. I prefer a pull technique. Some people like to push, but I'm applying slow, even pressure and pulling the caulk, keeping a close eye on how much I'm getting in there, and just trying to keep it a nice, consistent bead all the way down. This can take some time to get good at, but once you do, you can really hone it in. If you want to, you can come back through with your finger and smooth it out. Just make sure that your finger is wet, especially if you're dealing with 100% high-quality silicone like GE Sealants Supreme Silicone. 100% silicone is 100% waterproof, so if your finger's wet, it won't stick to it. You might ask, do I have to use 100% silicone? And the answer, at least for me, in showers is yes, I would. And the reason why you want to use 100% silicone is that it's 100% waterproof, unlike acrylic or latex caulk, which will break down over time when exposed to water. And 100% silicone is inert, so mold won't grow on it. So one way you can look at it is if it's wet, silicone is best. Before I move on to sealing around the floor here, I wanted to take the time to clean up these grout lines. You can see the calcification and everything that's built up on them. They're supposed to be this gray color, but they've turned into a chalky white color. So I'm using a wire brush to clean out the grout, and then I can go back in and reseal this with some grout sealer so that it doesn't happen again. So with that all cleaned out, then I can focus on sealing around the base of the shower. And because the tile curb matches the floor, I'm switching over to the GE Sealant Supreme Silicone in clear to make sure that this area is nice and sealed for good. And finally, I'm ready to start the door installation. Now, every door that you get is going to be a little bit different. So this is going to be a little bit more of a broad overview of installing a shower door rather than specifics, because the installation of this door may not match exactly which one you're installing. But the first step in this case was to install the lower shower track. There's different types of sliding glass doors, but this one, like a lot of them, ride on wheels that hang from a top track. So I'm installing the bottom track first, followed by the side rails, and then finally, I'm going to be installing the top track, which the doors will hang from. Anywhere the door calls for a bead of sealant, I'm using that same GE Sealants 100% clear silicone, which includes the bottom track and the side rails to hold them in place. Next, I carefully measure and mounted the placement for the top bracket that holds the rail, and I used a tile bit to drill into those locations to insert some new wall anchors. For the placement of the previous wall anchors, I used the white Supreme Silicone to fill those holes and make sure that everything was watertight, and smooth them out so that they were hardly visible. Finally, I installed the top track and got it in place, and then I'm ready to install the glass doors.
And now comes the sketchy part.
Now, if you have the option to get a second set of hands when you're installing the sliding glass door, I highly suggest that you use it. The glass can be heavy, awkward, and just cumbersome, and tempered glass like this has been known to explode, kind of somewhat spontaneously, so it's important to be extra careful with it. And once the door was installed and adjusted, finally I went back around and put a nice bead of the GE Sealants Supreme Silicone in clear all the way around the inside and the outside of the frame to make sure that this shower is sealed for good and it's not going to leak any water onto the floor. And one last little mini upgrade that I'm doing is removing this shower strainer and replacing it with one that matches the oil rubbed bronze fixtures. It's a subtle difference, but I think it just kind of pulls everything together. And there you have it. With a little bit of work and the right materials, this shower went from a problem to a clean, modern enclosure that's going to stand the test of time. Grab all my favorite GE Sealant products for your next DIY home repair project on my Amazon storefront at the link in my bio. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.